Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Swahili Sunday. We did it this week. I didn't forget. I wasn't somewhere where I forgot. I want to apologize for missing that last week. I was setting up for an event, and 2 hours after the event setup started at 8, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll set my alarm and then I'll do Swahili Sunday live from the event. Well, that didn't happen. I completely spaced it out because I got into setting up and didn't even think about it until about 11 o'clock. And I thought, oh no, I forgot to do Swahili Sunday. So anyway, here we are. If you're watching after the fact, welcome. Thank you so much for watching and stopping by and checking in. And I'm excited to be here to start a series on the Go Pink Rules of Engagement, which my book is over there. I wrote a book. Yeah, I don't need it because it's all right here. So the Go Pink Rules of Engagement is a book that I wrote about. It was like the first book I wrote. I was contributing author in a couple of books and then co-author of Heart of a Military Woman. But the first book that I wrote myself was called the Go Pink Rules of Engagement, 5 Foundational Principles for Taking Control of the Handlebars of Your Life. And that kind of had to do with my journey at the time of recovery and healing from basically a lifetime of chronic trauma, which I'll share a little bit about that in a minute. But let's talk about the Swahili word for today. The Swahili word for today is empower, which is kuwawezesha. Kuwawezesha means empower. And why am I bringing that up today? Obviously, taking control of the handlebars of your life is something that is empowering for you individually. It's very interesting. Pastor Josh Howerton was a guest pastor at Saddleback Church that is yesterday and today a guest pastor at Saddleback Church this weekend. And he was talking about a great message about how to work with yourself with things that you've done. So this is kind of, if you want to listen to that message, it's pretty good. Oh gosh, here we have Meow Mix because Gracie, and you can probably see the ears right there, is chasing her. Will you leave her alone? Meow Mix. Meow Mix and I, look, our hair matches. Totally. I mean, totally. She even has a few highlights in the bottom like I do. Anyway, Gracie, please leave Meow Mix alone. I have a pet menagerie here. Anyway, so Meow Mix is sitting on my lap. So empower, I'll put that up again. Kuwawezesha. Kuwawezesha, it means to empower. And actually, we are working on, okay, you guys have to take it somewhere else. We're working on starting an NGO, which is a non-government organization, which is the same thing as a nonprofit here in Kenya. We took the first step while I was there. We filled out some paperwork to apply for a name, and you had to put down several names, and then they choose the name that they want to assign you to your NGO. You can't just choose one name because they have to do a name search, and I don't know what goes into what they decide, but we did that, and they accepted, I think it was our third choice, and which is very interesting. I'll share about that in a minute. Empowered Women Kenya is going to be our NGO in Kenya. And the next thing I have to do is fill out all the paperwork to then make it become an NGO. Okay, Gracie, leave it, go. Leave her alone. Cats and dogs. Cats and dogs are funny. You can probably hear the little war going on, and I have a cat sitting in my lap that doesn't like the dog messing with her. Anyway, Empowered Women Kenya. I think that's so interesting. There's been some organizations here, particularly in the fair trade world, that have said the word empower is bad. And empowering people, when you say you're empowering people in what's called the global south now, you can't say third world country, you can't say developing country, you have to say global south. That is the appropriate terminology according to the word police. But empower is supposed to be a bad word. If me as a Mzungu white person say I'm empowering somebody of a different skin color than me in another country, that means I'm colonizing and exercising some power dynamic because I am claiming they didn't have the ability to empower themselves before I came along. Now, you know, some people may say, oh, well, that's just some people saying things. But no, you have to speak out against this kind of stuff in order to make sure that nobody's going to imply compelled speech in the fair trade world. What we are doing is empowerment. And it's so interesting that Kenya, the government of Kenya, chose Empowered Women Kenya as our nonprofit name. That's the name that they approved. And I'll be one of the board members, but everybody else on the board will be a Kenyan. So, you know, we are empowering women in Kenya. And did they have the ability to be empowered? Well, they had the abilities to do the things they do. For instance, our product of the week this week was the Helen necklace. Now, they had the ability to make these, but they didn't have the opportunity to market them. So I believe it was God calling me to work with the women. We work together as a team. I'm not exercising some power dynamic over them, some racist thing. If anybody's colonizing Kenya right now, it's China. That's a whole nother situation, because they own a lot of things like the railroad, and they've given money for the port and things like that. I'm not going to get into that kind of politics, but I'm just saying that what I'm doing in Kenya is empowering people, and I'm empowering myself, and I'm also empowering veteran-owned businesses here through my business in the U.S. I have 2 veteran-owned businesses at Fairtrade Long Beach, True Pop and Martin's Famous Oils. So you can check them out on Facebook and Instagram and buy their products. If you're not local to Long Beach, or if you're local to Long Beach, pop in. You can get them at the baskets and beads space. But empowerment is about lifting someone else up as you climb. And these women, they started with 5 and they reached back and they lifted other women up. And now what's happened in the community there in Kenya, because of the empowerment that's going on, is that Dorcas, our leader in the Kipsongo slum. So the way our structure is in Kenya, Layla is the director in Kenya, and then Dorcas is the manager for the Kipsongo slum, which she's the lady in Kipsongo who gathers the women together, who coordinates the orders, who gets the meetings together, gets the products to Layla to get to me. We will all work together as a team, and we all have our various roles. So she, as the manager, now they're from the Turkana tribe, and from what I understand, women don't hold any leadership positions within the tribe. But because of what's happening with the community of women who are part of Baskets and Beads, and how they've come together, how they've empowered each other, how they've lifted each other up, Dorcas is now able to sit with the tribal council and advise on things in the community, which is huge for a woman. It's huge. And she said, I'd never thought I'd be called a manager, or that I'd be in this leadership position. And it's all because of the opportunity that I just happened to be doing. And it just so happens that I'm a white person, but it has nothing to do with my skin color and their skin color. And so for somebody to say, using the word empowerment in your branding, and empowerment and when you're describing what you're doing, is some white savior power dynamic. If anybody knows me, I'm the furthest from that. We work together in cooperation, not competition. And what we're also going to do is take this on the road to, when I say take it on the road, our ladies are going to go help empower other groups and bring them together in community. And instead of having them fighting against each other and turning their backs on each other, they're going to work with them and help them come together, which is one of the reasons I'm going to be starting my Swahili lessons with Layla soon. And that's so I can be able to converse in Swahili. Otherwise, they'll have to translate everything for me in English. And I don't need that. I need this to be about them, and don't need to waste time with translations. So I need to do my work and really learn how to speak Swahili. I know a lot of words, but as again, our word for the day for empower is kuwawezesha, means empower. Kuwawezesha means empower. So that's just a little bit about that. I'm excited. So we're working on why are we doing an NGO in Kenya? We are doing an NGO in Kenya because it's easier to buy land in Kenya. And our goal is to buy some land build a place for them to manufacture, build a farm for them to grow food, not only for themselves, but also to sell. So that's a stream of income. And then build housing where they can have real housing and they can get out of those mud huts. And who knows what that's going to look like, but we're taking the steps we need to make it as easy as possible. So having an NGO in Kenya versus me having a US nonprofit is better, and it makes it easier to buy land there. So the NGO can buy the land there in Kenya. So more stuff to come on that. It's really exciting. But let's talk about the Go Pink rules of engagement and what that's about and what that really means. So Go Pink rules of engagement came out of my work that I did in order to empower myself to take control of the handlebars of my life. And I use motorcycling as an analogy because everybody knows I'm a Harley rider, and actually got my Harley back after it being sitting for so long with my broken wrist and such. And I went for a ride to church last Wednesday, and it was great just being out there with the wind in my face and hearing that hum of my bike engine. It was nice to be able to crank it up and go for a ride. It's been a long time, but I use that analogy of taking control of the handlebars of your life, because you think about if you've ever ridden on a motorcycle, if you've ridden on the back of a motorcycle, it's nice. You can ride on the back. There are a lot of people that do. You're still riding, but you don't have control. If you hop to the front seat and you grab the handlebars and take control of those, you have control about where the bike goes. And that's an analogy of also your life. Taking control of the handlebars of your life means that you are in the driver's seat. You have your hands on the throttle, and you can roll on your throttle and shift gears towards your own success. And shifting gears, you can, which is something that I did. I shifted gears through a lifetime of chronic trauma that I went through. Many of you know my backstory. For those of you who don't, I will share that a little bit. Oh, hey, Big Will. Yeah, the Iron Horse. That's right. Anyway, so many of you know that I grew up in a pretty rough upbringing. Both my parents were alcoholics. My mother was a raging alcoholic. She never told me she loved me. She actually left me in a store on purpose when I was 5 years old, and then came running back. And for some reason, I don't know. She was probably drinking then. I don't remember her ever being sober as far back as I can think. And she drank scotch, and she drank all day, every day. There were bottles stashed all over the house. She had a bottle on the counter with a shot glass, and I still have in my head the sound of that shot glass slamming on the counter. And it used to actually, like in movies and you know, if I ever was out somewhere and I heard somebody slam that shot glass, it used to give me kind of a jolt because of the trauma that I remembered that when I went through. I mean, as a kid, I would hate it when she washed my hair. I'm really tender-headed on top still to this day. And she knew that, and she would dig her nails in my scalp, and I would be screaming from the pain. And she would just be shut up, and she would just do it more and more. And she slammed my face into a wall when I was running for the door, and she didn't want me to get to the door or something. She shoved me. My friend saw it because she was looking through the window. She shoved me into the wall, and I had a black eye. That was in the 6th grade. And when I was in the 7th grade, she died from alcoholism. And she basically was, my father had come and got me out of school and took me to the rodeo, and he had never done anything like that before. And I loved horses. I wanted a horse. I actually wanted to be a veterinarian when I was a kid. That was my dream, to become a veterinarian and work with horses. I wanted to work with large animals. I was in 4-H. I had a horse. After my mother died, my mother would never allow me to have a horse. I mean, anytime we had a dog, she'd let it out. I mean, she was overcome. She was just a horrible person because of the alcohol. It just made her mean, nasty, horrible, and unloving. And we came back from the rodeo, and I went to bed, and that's the last time I saw my mother alive. She dropped in front of my door, and they took her to the hospital, and I went next door with the neighbor and came home and was told she died, and her cause of death was acute alcoholism. So then my father basically shut down and didn't really parent me, and I kind of ran around with the wrong crowd. I started skipping school, and then I dropped out of high school. I was headed nowhere fast. And then I came home one day when I had turned 18, and I had a job, and I came home one day and the house was empty. There was a note of eviction on the door. It was like he packed up and moved from Texas to Florida and didn't even leave me a forwarding address. It's kind of like, you're 18 now. See ya. Bye. And I kind of I just went and found myself an apartment. I had a mattress, a box spring, and a few belongings, and that's about it. And I kind of struck out on my own for a while, and then he let me come and stay with him. But I saw a commercial about the Air Force, and I always say it's God's perfect plan. Air Force, a great way of life. Raised my right hand and took that oath of enlistment, intended to do 4 years in the Air Force. Get in, do my 4 years and get out. But the end of, before I knew it, I had 23 years of honorable service. I had 2 associates and a bachelor's degree, training in a great career field. But I still had a lot of the effects. If you've ever grown up in addiction or alcoholism or been in a relationship with somebody who's an addict or an alcoholic, there are things that happen to you. You react to them. And that's how you unless you do something to work on healing that, your own hurts, habits, and hangups, like they talk about in Celebrate Recovery, which is the Christian version of Al-Anon or AA or any of the other programs. If you don't do something about those, you have those. If you don't do something about those, then you end up carrying that into all your relationships, into your parenting, into everything. And I made a lot of bad choices in relationships. I got myself beat up, almost killed. He choked me unconscious and left me there. And I always say, God was like, I'm not done. So who knows, a couple more seconds and I might not even be here telling you this. And I can share all this very nonchalant and matter of fact, because I've done the work to heal from it all. That's something that happened to me. That's not who I am. All those things are things that happened to me and not who I am. And that's why I wrote the book, The Go Pink Rules of Engagement, to address how I got beyond that and how I can now look in the mirror, and not only with the love of Jesus that I know I have in my heart, but also love for myself. Because like the pastor was talking about today, the devil likes to throw things at you and say that he's accusing you, that's who you are. Not those are things you did, that's who you are. You're that bad person that did all that. Every morning when I looked in the mirror, I heard my mother's voice when I was getting ready for work and when I was in the military, I heard my mother's voice say, who do you think you are? You're no good. You're a loser. And those are the things she told me. You're a hellion. You're a spoiled brat. Get out of my sight. Those are all the things she said to me constantly as a child growing up. And when you hear those things constantly as a child, you start to believe that you're no good, that you're useless, that you're worthless. And even though I had come to my faith in God at a very young age, I still had those voices in my head telling me, that's who I was. Yeah, Elizabeth, we're so much more than the stories of others. We did this in my Bible study on Wednesday. You're so much more than the bad things that happened to you, which was said by Nightbird, who was a singer. If you haven't seen that, America's Got Talent audition with, her name's Nightbird. If you put in Nightbird and America's Got Talent on YouTube, go listen to that. It's a very, very powerful audition. The things she said, one of the things she said is, I'm so much more than the bad things that happened to me. And it took me so long to be able to realize that. And that's what the Go Pink Rules of Engagement came out of. And pink, I used to wear pink. I was known as the pink biker chick in the biker world. So pink stands for power, integrity, negotiation, and knowledge. So P, having power. And that's being in the front seat, rolling on your own throttles to success and running over that stuff where somebody wants to put you down or tell you you're less than, or tell you you can't do this, you can't do that, or give up or forget it. I mean, I still get that kind of stuff thrown in my face. It's just like, are you kidding me? Like, go away, leave me alone. But that stuff still comes to attempt to attack me. Integrity means doing the right thing even when no one else is looking. It's making integrity-based decisions with yourself so you can make integrity-based decisions in every area of your life. And then negotiation, which everybody knows, I wrote the book called Think Like a Negotiator. If you don't, I did write that. And I talk about negotiation in a sense of how to negotiate a good deal, but also in this sense, it's negotiating with yourself, negotiating that belief in yourself, negotiating around those things that are there to trip you up. And those are Satan's schemes and things where he wants you to believe that, you're this horrible person. And if you did something wrong, that's who you are. And that's not true. That's just something you did. It's not who you are. Just like all the experiences I had or things that happened to me, it doesn't make me who I am. But for so long, I believed those things were who I am. I'm this horrible person. I'm this loser that I had to keep fighting against for so many years. And actually what happened to really trigger this was I was in a relationship with somebody who, it wasn't a healthy relationship. And he left me for somebody else. We had started a business together and he cut me out of the business. He took all the inventory. It was a motorcycle parts business. He took everything and cut me out of it and I invested the first money to start the business and we were in it together, and he basically took it from me. And he hurt me, hurt my children. He hurt my livelihood. It just was at a point where I had started to do some work on myself, and I wasn't stuffing my feelings anymore, and I could feel my feelings. And all of a sudden it's like, all right, let's feel everything you've never felt in your life, your whole entire life. And it came on me like a flood. And I think I dropped about 10 pounds and my clothes were hanging on me because I couldn't eat. I couldn't stop crying. I cried for 6 months. I actually took some medication to try to stop the crying. And that helped a little bit, but I didn't stay on that very long. I just could not stop crying. I would go to work. Somehow I got up and I went to work. I drive down to there's a park. I worked in El Segundo, and there was a Dockweiler Beach, and I would drove down there, and I sat there for an hour and cried, and then I went back to work, and I'd be sitting there working, and the tears would be coming down my face, and then I go home and lock myself in the bathroom and cry. And that went on for about 6 months. And I had started to go to Al-Anon. I didn't know about Celebrate Recovery then, but I went to Al-Anon to work the steps and to really heal. And I did other things. I went to church and I went to other programs. I learned neuro-linguistic programming. I learned all kinds of different things to help me heal all that stuff, all that trauma in my life. I mean, I was harassed and assaulted in the military, and I was, like I said, I had the one relationship where I got beat up. I mean, I had black eyes and that kind of thing. It was bad. So I've been through, and then all that trauma from my childhood. And I decided to take control of the handlebars of my life and negotiate away from that kind of stuff. And then finally, the K in pink is for knowledge. Knowledge isn't something that you ever stop getting. You have to continue to gain knowledge and continue, as a believer, as a Christian, I continue to get in the word and listen to messages and learn new things, and things come to me that I would have never, if I had not reread it. I may have read it before. If I hadn't reread it, I wouldn't be like, oh, wow, check this out. You know, what's the deal with that? So knowledge is a never ending pursuit. I think we continue to get knowledge until we leave the planet. So if you stop getting knowledge, and it's hard for me to focus on reading. My mind works a mile a minute. So I read in little small chunks in order to gain the knowledge I need to gain for the things for my business. I mean, I'm clueless about a lot of things in business still. And, you know, that's where a team comes in, and you need people to help you for the things you don't know. And like, for instance, marketing. I understand marketing, but I just don't have the brain to come up with the marketing speak in a lot of senses. And so I need people to help me with that. I have somebody getting ready to run some more ads on Facebook and everything like that. So, but just because you get to a point in your life that I've arrived, whatever, I've like done this work and I'm healed, and I can say that I have the peace and happiness in my heart. And part of that is from my relationship with God and the things that I do there. But part of it is because I did the work myself and did the things to get that stuff out of me, because it was attached to me like some kind of plague that would not go away. But that doesn't mean that you never mess up. There are times when something will hit me and bam, I'll react to it. And my thing used to be email wars. You can ask my kid's dad. He and I used to go back and forth in email wars where I would feel hungover after it because we would just be sending nastiness back and forth to each other. And I'm like, for what? And I remember my sponsor in Al-Anon was like, you can't send any emails to him until I read them. And she'd be like, no, you just need to send less. All you need to talk about is the one thing here. He's saying all this other stuff. You need to just ignore it. So there was a time when there was like a big couple of paragraphs full of all these barbs and spears thrown at me. And then there was one little question in there. I responded to the question and that was it. And I sent it. And because he was so used to that dynamic with me, he came back even worse and was attempting to get that kind of reaction out of me. But I'm like, you know what? Life's too short to get yourself cluttered up with the whole energy of nastiness and fighting and divisiveness and all that kind of stuff. So I stopped it. And then our interactions became a lot more pleasant. And you had the power to do that, believe it or not. It's like everybody's always looking nowadays to be offended. And I get wound up. I guess I have a propensity to not have patience with like stupidity. Like somebody who here you sent a direction and they did something completely different than what you said. Or like at work, I'll send a couple of questions and they do one thing or they do something and they don't answer the question. I'm like, but right up here above my desk, I have the sign that says be kind. So I get frustrated with that kind of stuff. And, you know, I'm only human and I've got cats everywhere. So it's okay, George, look, dude, come on. Meow Mix is here. George is here. Like, how can you do a production when you have cats everywhere? I do it every weekend. They sit on me. It's so funny. Anyway, I had a situation, I don't know, 3 years ago where I had been selected to be part of this really cool veterans project. And they were going to feature me and a lot of other veterans. And I felt so honored that I'd been chosen. And because sometimes I feel the veteran community doesn't support me. I have plenty of situations where I get blown off or I get ignored or I apply for something. And like I've actually applied to be part of an event and I see all of my veteran brothers that I met. Oh, I've been approved to go for the 7th year in a row. And I get an email that says, oh, well, there's a lot of people who've applied and you're still in review process. So, you know, it's like, why can't I get the support I need from the veteran community? Anyway, so this situation happened where and they were going to take my photo. I was going to be part of this big, you know, publicity thing, whatever. I was really honored. And it wasn't about the publicity other than the fact that I thought it might drive sales for baskets and beads, which would help the ladies in the long run, which is all I want to do. I just want to help them. I mean, I've kind of focused my whole life on helping those women succeed and get their products sold. So anytime I had the opportunity to do that, if I have to be the face out in front, I'm happy to do that for them. They have beautiful products. They're talented and creative. You can see some of them behind me here, but you know, with anything, you get a lot of no's. Well, I was just so excited about that. And then I got this email that said, oh, sorry, there was this whole buildup and they'd gotten my bio and they were going to get my pictures. I was actually just getting ready to be on the East Coast where I could meet and we could do something in person. Since I was out in California and a lot of people were on the East Coast, it was kind of hard for that to happen. And then I got this, which it was kind of a dismissive email. Oh, it was like, hi, oh, happy Sunday. Sorry, we can't use you. You're removed from the project. Next, basically. And then I saw where they had right after that said, oh, we're happy to have this other person who was famous or whatever as part of our project. And I thought, wow, did I just get kicked to the curb for somebody famous? Now, I didn't go and verify the facts, but that just that just cut me, and I reacted, and I sent a not so nice email. Okay, I'll be honest. I sent a nasty email. I was usually I don't do that, but you know, Satan got me. I reacted, and I went back to my old way of being, and I just responded, and it was unkind, and I ended up. It took me a while. I apologized, but it took me a while because I had to forgive myself first before I could do that. Yeah, don't react, act. That's a great analogy, but that, you know, I'm human, and I just happen to react, and I'm out here admitting that I'm fallible just like anybody else. And the fact that I did that, you know, I went and made it right, and that doesn't mean that I won't ever do it again, but I don't react like that normally. It just got me because I had been rejected by a bunch of other situations leading up to that point. That was right about the time I had to go back to a job because my speaking business was tanking, and you know, I was getting rejected from every front, and this was just another rejection piled on the many, and I just happened to react, and I'm not proud of it. And it took me a while before I couldn't really, I apologized right away, but I couldn't really do justice to the apology until I forgave myself for acting like that. And you know, the problem is somebody else said to me, oh, well, I can't do that. I can't act like that because I'm in the public. Okay, I'm in the public too. Does that mean that I'm this horrible person? Is that who I am? No, that's not who I am. I just happen to react in the moment, and instead of getting a grip on myself, I let it go. And I'm being transparent. I'm being honest here. It's just something that sometimes you just have to accept the fact that you're a human and you did something stupid. It was stupid. It was an idiotic thing to do, an idiotic way to react, and I was ashamed. And you know, that's just what Satan wanted. Aha! Look, you've gone all these years through all this work, and look, you're still the same loser you always were. You're still reacting. You know, I got beat up in my head about that. I had to fight that off constantly through prayer and knowing that, you know, in my belief as a Christian, I know I have Jesus standing beside me and being like, no, you're covered. You're not who you once were. And just because you made a slip up as a human and did something stupid doesn't mean you're going to continue doing that. Doesn't mean that's who you are, and doesn't mean that, you know, you can't be forgiven for that. And then that it's like, and not only forgiven from the people that experienced it, but also forgiving myself. And once I forgave myself and calmed myself, you know, it took me a couple of months before I could really, I wasn't going to send I sent something right away, but I wasn't going to send the real heartfelt apology until I was able to do it from a place of love and forgiveness instead of a victimhood and blaming myself and being this horrible person. So I did that, and the forgiveness was accepted, and you know, it's all good, and it's still there sometimes. Oh, look what you did! Look what you did! Look what you did! You know, I'm not who I once was, but that doesn't mean I'm not human enough that I'm not going to ever slip up. So I work towards being that person who doesn't react that way. And actually, usually what I do when I'm upset about something, if I'm going to respond to something, as a matter of fact, something happened at work where somebody got snarky with me, and a coworker jumped on the bandwagon that made this person be able to get snarky with me. And I was so upset. I was upset, and I'm like, I'm not going to respond to this now because I'm upset. I'm really upset. This really upset me. This was uncalled for. And it's kind of some of the culture that goes on where I work. People love to throw snark at people. I asked somebody what something was, and you don't know what that is? I'm like, no. In my career as a contracts person, I've done contracts. I haven't done supply chain. So you're asking me for this document, which I just want to know what it is so I know what I'm asking for. Don't dog me out because I'm asking. My background experience is service contracts and multi-million-dollar engineering service contracts. And launching of satellites and things like that. I haven't dealt with this, so I'm trying to learn. So don't fault me for learning. But I've had a lot of people do, wow, you don't know what that is? Like, you idiot. And I have gotten to where I'm like, okay, I'm going to step away and not respond. So I took the whole weekend, and it kind of ate at me a little bit off and on. And I kept praying about it. Take this away. Take this away. I'm just going to release it in Jesus' name. Leave me alone, Satan, you punk. And by the time Monday morning rolled around, I decided not to respond to it because there was nothing, no response was needed. Any response to that would have been answering the snark. So I decided not to do that. So that's what taking control of the handlebars of your life is all about. Being in the front seat, rolling on your throttle. As a matter of fact, so take control of the handlebars of your life. There was I'll say organization. I'll say organization because I don't want to name any names, but there was an organization, and I met the managers of the women's program of this organization. And I told them about take control of the handlebars of your life and how I wanted to be part of the women's motorcycle movement and all that kind of thing. And I don't know, about 6 months later, Grab the Handlebars of Life came out. And I know exactly where they got it from. They just took my slogan, and they had a history of doing that with other people I knew about. I found out later. But they took my slogan, and instead of working with me to empower me, they basically stole my content, tweaked it a little, and made it their own. So, that kind of stuff. I was like, wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting. But people do that all the time. And what are you going to do? You're going to let it tear you down, or are you going to just keep on rolling your throttle and keep on going towards your success? And that's kind of the brunt of the Go Pink rules. And I'll tell you the 5 rules. And over the next 5 weeks, I'm going to share about each one of those. I think there may be a time in between where I don't, but we're going to go have one Swahili Sunday dedicated to each one of those. So the first one is turn negative self-talk to powerful self-talk. That's about that thing, that stuff that you say to yourself. And then the second one is about releasing resentment. Resentment's the poison we think that kills other people, but it really kills our spirit. And I have some great stories there. I had a lot of resentment towards my parents most of my life until I did the work to release that resentment and get rid of that. They did the best they could with what they had. They were alcoholics. I didn't choose to come into an alcoholic family. They just were that. And it was awful. But that's okay. I had a bad childhood, but I still have a good life. So there's a book by Dr. Laura about that. It's called Bad Childhood, Good Life. I have not read it, but I assume it's about understanding that you could have a bad childhood and you still have a good life. Then there's surround yourself with people who hold you to a higher standard. You don't want to surround yourself with people who bring you down. You want to surround yourself with people who support you, who uplift you, who are there for you, who are motivated to inspire you, to help you, and to give you some good counsel maybe when you are going the wrong direction or you don't know what you're doing. That doesn't mean that somebody's going to be your rah-rah all the time, but you don't want somebody who's going to be like, what are you doing that for? You'll never do that. You're no good at that. You don't want those negative people, or when you all get together, all you talk about is negativity. So that you want to surround yourself with people who hold you to a higher standard, who people you can emulate, who work and walk in integrity and are living an empowered life themselves. And for me, I'd like to be around other Christian brothers and sisters. I'd love shout out to my veterans group. If I didn't have them, boy, they've got me through some tough times, even though there are a bunch of Marines in there. I know one of them's listening, or 2 of them. And then I got my Air Force brother that we pick on our Marine brothers anyway. We like to have fun, but just remember, I showed you all how to shoot at the shooting range last time we went. We can do that again. Anyway, so you want to surround yourself with people who hold you to that higher standard. Next thing you know, you want to take positive action towards your goals and dreams. That's number 4. Take positive action towards your goals and dreams. Dreams without action are just fantasies. You can have a dream, but if you don't take some kind of action towards it, you are not going to get there. And yes, Semper Fi. I see you, Big Will. Blah, blah, blah. Go Air Force. Anyway, you have to take that positive action towards your goals and dreams, and I'll teach you a goal setting statement. I actually did some of this at the beginning of the year, but this is where that comes from. You want to take that action. You have to take action. You can't just sit there and be like, so for instance, I'd be like, oh yeah, I want to sell these beads, but I don't do anything to sell them. They gonna sell? Am I gonna get anywhere with that? No, you have to take some kind of action, and then finally have fun. If you don't have, if all work and no play makes people dull and boring, you have to have some fun somewhere, whether that means going out and doing something or doing something you enjoy. I love gardening. I love to actually take the dog to the dog park and watch her run around and play. It gives me a lot of joy to watch her do that. She's silly. And then I have cats sitting in my lap. I have one here. I have one over here laying on the desk. This is Gracie's the dog. This is the Gracie escape pod, because they know she won't come around here and get them. So they're on me or on the desk. It's pretty funny. So those are the Go Pink rules of engagement that we will go over the next few weeks. And I'll just share some of my experience, strength, and hope, some of the things I went through to get there, all the things that I did to be able to have this smile on my face. And despite the fact of where I came from and what I went through, I actually went to my parents' gravesite in San Antonio, Texas. And I'll share a little bit about that in the future, and made amends to them. And somebody may be thinking, why you want to make amends to them? They did you wrong. I had to make amends for holding on to that resentment, to that anger, to that unforgiveness. I had unforgiveness towards them because of what they put me through. And I carried that, especially with my mother. I mean, my mother, she died when I was 12, but she died a lot sooner than that from the alcohol. So she never was, she was a raging, crazy alcoholic, and people would bully me at school. And I went through a lot of stuff because everybody in the neighborhood, I can only imagine now in an adult mind what they saw. She was like, anytime she went anywhere, she was drunk. All the time. I mean, I don't think she was sober for, I don't know how many years, as far back as I can remember. So anywhere she went, anybody that had any interaction with her, she was drunk. And I grew up with that. And so kids hear their parents talk and they would, oh, your mother's a drunkard and things like that. Yeah, true. Frees you. Not hanging on to that resentment is true freedom. And I can definitely look in the mirror and look at the person back at me and say that, I love you. You're an awesome person. If you can say that about yourself, despite all your flaws. I got a lot of flaws, but as we all do. If you can look in the mirror and just be happy and joyous. Actually, I did share another post from Nightbird, and we talked about this in my veterans group, and I'll close with this. You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy. You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy. So if you want to see this, I posted this everywhere. It's on Instagram, it's on Facebook. It's on the page, my profile, the group. And again, go check out Nightbird. Go check out her audition on America's Got Talent. It's very empowering. Makes you think, what do I have to be upset about? Just like when I went to Kenya and saw what the ladies struggle with, and they're happy anyway. What do I have to be unhappy about? I have a roof over my head. I'm hungry right now. I'm going to go get something to eat right there in my kitchen. I can go and drive my car, and I can go take a shower, the things that we take for granted. So that's about all I wanted to share today, but I will share also, as I always do, because the situation in Kenya, we are still raising funds for the ladies to make sure they have food packs. We have kids that need to go back to school. They have shut down the area, so there's no markets open, so the ladies can't sell there. So the only sales that they have is from the things that I sell. And the more I sell, the more I can buy from them. So that's one side of it. You can, if you want to check that out at basketsofbeadskenya.com, go look on the website and check out the Helen necklace, which this was our Fair Trade Friday product of the week, because the ladies are modeling this. Check out the Helen and the Akuleo and the Layla. Those are the ones I have up. There are more I have to add, but I just haven't gotten to those yet. So go check that out and see the ladies modeling. And if you want to give a gift to somebody, there's great gift ideas there. If you want to give a gift to yourself, there's great things there that you can check out. But also, basketsandbeadskenya.org is our nonprofit site where we are raising funds for to help the ladies make sure that they have food every month still, because they can't sell there and things that shut back down. It's until the 31st where they're going to make a decision. I don't know. I haven't kept up with what the cases are like over there, but where the ladies are, curfew at 7 p.m., no street markets, so they're not able to sell on the street. So we're going to make sure that they have food until they can start earning again. And part of our goal with starting the nonprofit there is to make sure that they have, that we can buy some land and get a farm started so they can grow their own food and so they can sell some. And, you know, multiple streams of income. Selling the beads is one thing, but being able to sell the food that they grow and maybe help others out in the community, help themselves out, so grow their own food and grow food that they can then also sell in the market so they can earn some additional income, build us a place for them to work and build housing for them as well. So that is about it for the Go Pink Rules of Engagement this week. I will be sharing, let's see, I will be back next week, right? Yes, I'm going to a celebration of life for my friend's mother who passed earlier this year, and we're going to be doing that. But I will be back on Sunday for Swahili Sunday. Fair Trade Friday will be on the road, I believe. And I may have to do that early because the celebration of life starts at 6 p.m. on Friday. So I may come on early for Fair Trade Friday and just talk about the product of the week, and then head on down to the celebration of life. We'll figure that out as the week goes along. But if you want to donate, basketsandbeadskenya.org is where to go. It's tax deductible. And remember, empower is kuwawezesha, which is our Swahili word of the week. And I hope you all have been empowered a little by what I've shared today. Take control of the handlebars of your life. Don't hop in the back seat of your own life. Go from the back seat to the front seat. Take control of the handlebars, grab your throttle, and roll on it towards your own success. So I will be seeing you soon. Until next time, Nakupenda.